Good to have you. Now, let me ask you this as we kick off this segment. Would you say women in Nigeria have rightly positioned themselves to get actively involved in today's politics?
Well, I don't know if positioning themselves is the right word, but women have over the years tried very hard to be not just seen but heard. Every time you have a political campaign, look around you, there's so many women. Every political party, the only time you hear the word women is when they are talking about the women's wing, which is just for campaigns. We hardly have the women in the ESCO holding any other position other than women leader. So it's very difficult. They're just like 0.001% in the party, but you see they are the ones who show up more at the polling units. But they would rather not just be coming out to campaign and dance and tie wrappers. They would rather want to be part of the decision making. They would like to be able to tell you what they have to bring to the table, only if you would listen.
All right, let's talk about the level of the participation of women in politics. How would you assess that?
Well, so far in Nigeria, in Africa, it's pretty low. South Africa has tried over the years to make sure that there's a 50-50% representation in their parliament. I think it's happening somewhere in Tanzania.
Is that achievable? Of 50%?
Yes, it is. It is happening in South Africa. That's what I'm saying. They have 50-50 in the National Assembly, in their parliament. And if it's able to be done in South Africa, I'm sure that we can do it here in Nigeria. But then we have so many blockades like culture and tradition. And, you know, the thing that we say women are supposed to be seen and not heard. The moment you say you want to run for office or you see a woman who's saying she's a politician, the first thing that comes to your mind is, oh, she's a loose woman. Why should she be doing this? Where are your children? Does your husband know where you are? So these are blockades because you already are judging the woman and not trying to find out what she has to offer.
Oh, interesting you made mention of the word blockade, because I was just going to ask you, what are the factors you think discourage, militating against women participating in politics? One of
which I have mentioned, culture, tradition, the patriarchal system in which we find ourselves, in. It makes it very difficult. We have very intelligent women. Take a look at it. Most of the Nigerian women or young girls who leave this country to the shores of other countries make it real big. They're very outspoken, they're very successful. How come that doesn't really happen here? That woman has to fight tooth and nail to be able to make it up there. Another blockade is the women themselves. Women are not supporting women, because if they do, that way we would have, more representation of women, but instead women would line up behind a man instead of lining up behind a woman. So women need to start galvanizing support and canvassing for their fellow women. Have meetings with women and see which of them in the group is smart enough to take up the responsibility. I mean, I always ask people, especially men, how do you trust a woman to take care of your home and your children and bring them up so well, but you cannot trust her a little more to let her also make some decisions? Why do you just rather relegate her to the home?
You just made a list of factors that militate and discourage women from actively participating in politics, especially here in Nigeria. Now, how realistic do you think the clamor for 50% affirmative action in the involvement of women in politics will be in the country?
It's like a needle passing through, the camel passing through the eye of a needle.
Almost impossible.
I said it's like, well, the reality is if we are ready mentally, and I'm talking about we, both men and the women, there are a lot of women, like I said, who are ready, who are fit, who are capable, who have very interesting, life-changing ideas that could help us in our political system. I tell you what, the reason why there have been so many wars in the world is because of the ego of men. Men always fight, but women come there and they bring peace. Sometimes they even bring ideas that can help us have a truce of sorts, and we can pave, So development will only come to Nigeria when we allow women to share the table with the men. And also not just any woman, because we're looking for women to get into government. We want women who can own their own, women who know their onion, women who have studied their crafts well enough to be able to sit at the table. And there are thousands of those women waiting to be unfolded. The door, we want that door to be open, but I'm saying that women should kick that door down now.
All right. Let's take a look holistically of the Nigerian political scene. In your opinion, do you think there's ever going to be a chance, an opportunity for a woman president and governor to emerge?
I love the women. I'm a big advocate for women in politics. This is my mandate, my #1 mandate. But again, we cannot just be overly hopeful. Nigeria is going through a process, and it will take some time for us to even get a male leader that is worthy of his onion. Is still, you know, a mirage of some sort, and that's because we're not ready. That's also why we're not ready for a female president. We have to grow and mature to a certain level where we can embrace every one of us as humans and not seeing gender, but seeing what you're able to bring to the table.
Let's talk about interest now in women getting involved in politics. Interest for participation. What do you think the political stakeholders and the government can do to increase women's interest and participation in politics?
Like I said at the beginning, political parties need to not relegate women to just either being party treasurer or the usual women leader.
Is there such relegation?
Yes, there is. I mean, and this is ditto for all of the political parties, the big and the small. Women are hardly party chairmen. Women are hardly party vice chairmen. They're mostly male because it is a male-dominated thing. And you know, in Nigeria, we feel that politics is a dirty game. And a woman is too decent to be seen playing in the mud. But you see, that mud is for everybody. We all have something to give while we're playing in the mud. So let the girls hop in and also roll in the mud if you think it's a dirty game.
Okay, so bring this to a close. Would you run for office? Would you run for any political office?
No, I love what I do.
Oh.
And what I do is to help those people who want to run for office, give them a platform to have this conversation so other women, both the girls in school, to have civic education, awareness, orientation, so they could come into their own. Leadership doesn't always have to boil down to running for office. You could lead wherever you are. I mean, start from where you stand.
Thank you, Maryann, for your time.
Thank you.